With a normal telephone, when you want to call someone, you have to communicate with the phone by entering a string of digits. But with this telephone, if I want to make a call, all I have to do is say, Mr. Gary Kildall. And the phone automatically makes the call for me. There's a computer chip inside this phone that recognizes my words by finding a matching voice print in its memory. Indeed, speech is the ultimate natural language interface between man and machine. Today, we'll take a look at the latest developments in speech technology on this edition of the Computer Chronicles.
The Computer Chronicles is made possible in part by the Software Publishers Association, which reminds you it's a federal offense to copy software. The SPA provides information on how to stay software legal. Funding is also provided by PC Connection and Mac Connection, and by Byte Magazine and Bix.
Welcome to the Computer Chronicles. I'm Stuart Chaffee, and with me today is Jan Lewis. Jan, we have a bunch of talking chips over here. Here's a clock.
4:25 p.m.
This is a pronouncing thesaurus. Smart word. This is a talking translator. I've got a phrase in here. I will speak it in English.
Where's the nearest bank, please?
If I want to know how to say that in German.
Wo ist die nächste Bank?
This looks like a magazine. I'll bet you think this is a magazine.
Looks like what?
But this is a magazine that talks. The Texas Instruments ad that talks. Jan, as obvious, we see speech chips everywhere now. And these are output devices. We're really focusing on input devices. Bill Gates recently said he thinks the microphone will be the next mouse. Do you agree?
I think that certainly the mouse and the keyboard won't go away as input devices, but I think the microphone or voice input will be the leading technology for input over the next decade, let's say, in terms of innovation, in terms of the way it's going to change our interaction with machines and with appliances, etc. I think it'll be very important for applications, not just the sort of obvious ones, which are things, let's say, where disabilities or somebody's afraid of a keyboard, but even for people who are proficient with a keyboard. There may simply be times that their hands are busy doing something else, and they still need to issue a command. The biggest negative I hear when I bring up the topic of voice input and recognition to people, the biggest complaint I hear is people say it will never happen because people will feel silly talking to a machine or an appliance. And that sounds pretty logical, except if you look at history, you find that that doesn't hold up. For instance, the telephone answering machine. A few years ago, people said, I feel silly talking to a machine. And today, of course, it's just a matter of doing business today.
All right, Jan, today we'll look at the latest in speech technology, focusing on speech recognition, and we'll see 4 real products which let you talk to your computer. Now, one great benefit of speech input and output is that it can help visually impaired people use computers. We're going to begin with a visit to the Sensory AIDS Foundation in Palo Alto to see the latest in speech technology from IBM.
The goal of the Sensory AIDS Foundation is to train people with disabilities to use computers to improve their productivity at work. One such example of a so-called access technology is the screen reader from IBM for visually impaired people. It's a memory-resident program that converts information on a computer screen into voice output through a synthesizer.
Screen Reader is one of the most flexible screen review programs on the market.
One of the main advantages of Screen Reader is it's completely flexible. You can tell it or teach it to do almost anything. It has a programming language of its own called Profile Access Language. And with that, you can tell Screen Reader how to behave with Sidekick, for example, or with WordPerfect, or whatever application you're trying to run.
A separate 18-key keypad is used to customize functions such as the reading speed or what area of the screen the computer should read. IBM is also experimenting with a voice input system called Tangora at its research center in New York. The PC-based system is speaker-dependent. That is, the user must train the computer to recognize and store his or her sound patterns. Tangora recognizes speech at 2 different levels after digitizing the user's words. In the first, the system compares the digitized voice with the speaker's pre-recorded sound patterns. A comparison is also made with the computer's built-in 20,000-word vocabulary.
Another level is to analyze the likelihood of words following each other, and for that we use a language model of the English language. Our language model is based on measuring the likelihood of words following other words simply by looking at tens of millions of words of text.
The results of the two are combined to come up with several combinations of words. The phrase with the highest probability is then displayed on the screen within seconds. The user can then edit the text before transforming it into a word processing file. Voice recognition has existed for many years, but if more sophisticated systems like Tangora become widely available, they may bring the keyboard one step closer to obsolescence. For the Computer Chronicles, I'm Kate McGargy.
Here to show us the newest in speech recognition technology are Patty McKenzie of Dragon Systems and Merrill Solomon of the Voice Processing Corporation. Jen?
Merrill, we've been hearing about the technology of speech recognition for a long time, and it's sort of a sexy technology, but so far it's been more hype. It's sort of been more talk than action, or maybe less talk than action. But are we getting to the stage now where we actually have commercial products that really work for people doing real things?
There's no question that speech recognition technology has reached the point right now where it is commercially viable and cost effective. That's, I think, a very important item for people to note. I think a lot of people still think the HAL computer is what speech recognition is, and it's not. The HAL computer is 20 or 30 years from now. What we have is speech recognition. In Patty's case, it's isolated word and it's speaker dependent. In my case, it's small vocabulary, continuous speech over the telephone line, but it serves a useful purpose. They are very good, they're cost effective, and they're things that people should be buying and using today and not thinking about the HAL computer 15 or 20 years from now.
All right, Patty, let's turn to you and Dragon Dictate, and I think you're going to show us how you would run WordPerfect without knowing anything about function keys and so on. Give us a little background on Dragon Dictate.
Okay, Dragon Dictate is a system which enables you to dictate directly to the computer, and Dragon Dictate will translate what you say into text. And it does that two ways. One, with a direct translation, when I say the word word, it will place the word word on the screen. Mm-hmm. Also, we have something which I'll demonstrate called voice macros, which is when I say a phrase, it sends different keystrokes to the computer. And we'll be seeing some of that. I think it's important to mention that there's a lot going on, a lot of new concepts in terms of speech recognition. So let me mention that as I'm demonstrating, menus will appear on the screen. And these menus are the computer's best choices of the word. For example, when I say the word to, the system will bring up all of the different spelling options for to, T-O, T-W-O, T-O-O, and the digit 2. And the user can, by speech, enable the computer to select the correct word and place it on the screen. So at the end, I'll also look at the statistics for the computer, and we'll see what the kind of throughput people are getting with speech recognition.
All right, let's do it. We might explain you're wearing the headset because you will be running the computer through the microphone.
That's right.
Go ahead.
Start WordPerfect. OK. Begin document. New paragraph. Flush right. Today's date. New paragraph. Mr. Stuart Chaffee. Stuart's address. New paragraph. Dear Stuart, comma, new paragraph. Thank you for inviting Dragon Systems to appear on Computer Chronicles, period. It was a pleasure meeting you, period. New paragraph, closing paragraph. Voice console, go to sleep. Voice console, statistics. Now we see that the throughput of the system was approximately 77 words, if I can get it back up. The throughput that I was getting was approximately 77 words, which is much faster than most people type, certainly much faster than I type, and 97% accuracy one time I had to choose the word off the choice list. So what this demonstrates is that for people who are in hands-busy kinds of applications where they don't have the flexibility to sit down and type, or for people who don't have high typing skills, whether that's professionals or people with disabilities, Dragon Dictate and technologies like this enable people to input into the computer.
Patty, this is a demo, and I think as Jan suggested before, people are suspect, of some of these systems, which is, when you show off a demo like this, which seems to be very, very powerful. In fact, I mean, how good is it to the average user in a typical situation? I mean, should I run out and buy this thing so I can write my letters the way you just did?
Well, the system is not developed for a speedy typist. It's not going to replace secretaries. The system typically gets about 30 to 35 words of throughput, and most people don't type that fast. So if you are a very slow typer or you're in one of these hands-busy applications, then the system may be right for you.
Okay. Merle, I want to turn to you now, and you said you have a different approach from what Patty did with Drag and Dictate. Tell us how your stuff is different.
Ours is for the commercial application. It's for the credit card authorization, it's for the interactive speech response, the voicemail, the catalog order entry, and for the R-Box and operator intercept.
And what you really have is a board like that one in front of you?
Yes, this is one of our boards. It fits inside of a PCAT, and it is self-contained and doesn't need any of the other memory or access to the machine, just a host to control it.
And I take it this is designed for phone input, since that's what you have in front of you.
Yes, indeedy. It is narrow band, it is continuous speech speaker independent, and operates over the telephone so that the general public has access to any of the capabilities.
Show us how it works, Merle.
I will. First one I'd like to do is a credit authorization demonstration. This is actually online right now at 2 of the 3 major credit card companies, and it's set up for the service establishment user to get in and off the line in under 30 seconds. So I just throw the numbers right in and it comes right back out.
Okay, go ahead.
Credit Authorization Center, merchant number
142-571-1124.
Card number
3740-664-070-52504.
Dollar amount
$126 even.
confirmation $126. Is that correct?
Yes.
Approval code 53. Repeat 53.
Pause, please.
All right, so when we see that retail clerk checking your credit card, they're talking to a computer.
Well, not fully yet, but pretty soon we hope, yes.
All right, what's another example of how this is being used?
Another one is we have two applications running at 9X and US West, where operator intercept. We've all been in that situation where a phone gets lost in a network someplace and they say, what number are you calling?
Right.
Here's that situation.
Okay.
Would you like to try another demonstration?
Yes.
Please say your demo selection number or 0 to hear the options available.
2.
This is your computerized telephone operator. Your call could not be completed. Please say the 7-digit telephone number you are calling.
494-0100.
4940100. Is that correct?
Yes.
That number has been changed. The new number is 5766311. Repeat 5766311.
Pause, please.
Merle, this is great, and clearly it uses the continuous speech, the speaker independence, etc. And I'm sort of curious, Patty, on your system. Is your system speaker independent, speaker dependent, or you had some other way of describing it?
Yes. We actually, our system is mostly speaker independent, or speaker dependent rather, I'm sorry. But it really is what we've termed a new term called speaker adaptive, because the system learns the more you use it, and it will adapt to any speaker walking up to it.
Okay. So many of these speaker-dependent systems require a good 20 minutes, let's say, to teach the computer your voice. And it sounds like with the user adaptive or speaker adaptive technology, you could in fact forego that first 20 minutes if you wanted to.
Right. Well, we recommend that the user train on 200 words, which are keywords to the system, like you saw me use new paragraph or period, comma. And what that does is that builds a basic phonetic modeling for the user's voice. And from there, they can just begin dictating and using the tools to correct the words as they go.
Patty Merle, I'm afraid we're out of time. All right, while speech recognition technology may seem to be a bit of a luxury, if you're a busy doctor trying to handle a hospital emergency room, speech input can literally be a lifesaver. Here's a report.
No chest pain or anything.
When a
like
patient's
that,
life
no.
is in danger, every second counts, and a doctor has little time left to spend on medical record keeping. But with a new voice-activated computer system, doctors at the Humana Hospital near San Francisco can now create complete medical charts by speaking them into a computer. The Voice EM, or Emergency Medicine System from Kurzweil Applied Intelligence, uses voice recognition to enter data. The doctor dictates a word or a phrase, such as auto accident, to activate an entry. The computer then prompts the physician through a series of questions pertinent to that entry. The doctor simply speaks into the handset each time with his answer.
Nylon, sutures, continue. 3 centimeter laceration, right frontal scalp. The main advantages have been legibility, increased turnaround time. The charts are produced rapidly on site. We're able to produce legible full discharge instructions that are handed to the patient upon discharge. There's certain risk management and quality assurance benefits that help our in-house audits of patient care. And finally, we find that the physician has more time to spend with the patient because he's not tied down to handwriting his charts.
The Voice EM will respond to anyone's voice, and it comes with a built-in 5,000-word vocabulary. Doctors can tailor the system to their needs by adding extra words. The emergency medicine reporting system runs on a 386 IBM PC or compatible. And while doctors will need to spend extra time learning the new system, everyone from doctor to patient to hospital benefits.
Some states have recognized the efficacy of the system and its impact on medical legal problems and have lowered their malpractice insurance rates to users.
For the Computer Chronicles, I'm Kate McGargy.
Well, we've seen some rather expensive speech hardware up until now. Next, we'll look at 2 lower-cost speech recognition devices that work with a Macintosh. Patrick Sweeney of Articulate Systems will show us the Voice Navigator, and Jack Trowbridge of Maxima will demonstrate Voice Express. Janet?
Patrick, in the last segment, we saw basically the trade-offs between the various pieces of functionality, specifically whether it can be speaker independent, with continuous speech, and the size of the vocabulary. For instance, the product that Merrill showed had continuous speech, speaker independence, but a very small vocabulary. How do you handle the trade-offs and the kind of functionality that you choose to incorporate?
Since we're running on a Macintosh, it's hierarchical based, and therefore you can execute any one of 200 commands at any one time. Underneath every single one of those menus, you can execute 200 more. So it's virtually unlimited. You can go as far as you like.
But again, you're dealing with commands, so you have a kind of finite universe here.
Exactly,
as
not a
to the more
vocabulary.
perfect example. All right, Jack, let's turn to Voice Express, and you've got the card in your hand. Describe it.
Right. We have a new bus card works with the Mac 2 family. It has its own processor, so it actually does the word recognition right here on the card. It also stores the voice patterns that you're going to be trying to match against onto the card, so we don't take up any space inside the Macintosh, and we don't have to worry about interrupts and things like that with System 7.0. Yeah. We also have an analog chip here, so we can listen to the volume here, and people can adjust the volume, so if they need to put the headset down and then talk into it, they can do that.
Show us how it works, Jack.
Okay. Now, we can work with quick keys or tempo with those programs, and like he mentioned, we can also have groups of words. But in here I have a HyperCard example where we have X commands, and for each one of the cards you can have a group of words here, and you can cut and paste these sounds from one card to another. Here's the overall layout of the card itself. Again, we have 75 words that we can have at one time, but we can read and write into those with groups of words, a color group of words. So you can say color, red, you have tool groups and things like that. One of our main applications is CAD-CAM, where you have just small groups of words off to the side. Here we have a ability to, like I say, to sample the sound here. Hello, 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 hello. And then people can actually use this to do voicemail after we capture the sound, convert it into a sound resource, although the primary purpose of the card is voice recognition. Drive. This is a standard HyperCard.
Let's make clear what you just did. You told the card to drive.
I told the card to drive, and then it went and it clicked this button.
Right.
Instead of clicking the button. And it took a standard HyperCard stack that most people see, and it shows you how you can add our voice commands to existing HyperCard stacks. And we've also created things so that you can go off from any card and train new words. And you can also adjust the confidence of a level on each one of those words.
Okay, Patrick, let's turn to Voice Navigator 2, and how would you say this is different from the approach we just saw with Jack's product?
The design of this product is to be productive with virtually any software. Any existing software in the market can be voice-driven completely.
All right, which ones are you going to show us?
I'm going to go ahead and launch McDraft and Aldous Persuasion.
Okay.
So I turn the system on. Open McDraft. So that launches the application. You can also string together macros and that kind of thing.
Is this unit what's doing the actual work?
Yes, this is the entire system between this black box and this microphone loaded into a SCSI chain. And it's just loading the program and the files. Okay. 1-inch circle. Duplicate, 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 edit, select all, line item, thick, 2-inch rectangle, duplicate, duplicate, edit, select all, arrange, align objects, concentric, OK, text entry, ASI, return, CAD CAM, 72 point, 24 point, 12 point, Chicago, file, quit, no. So yeah, the idea is that you can completely circumvent 90% of the work because you don't need to be negotiating through the hierarchies of programs. I'll go ahead and launch Aldous Persuasion.
Now, are people actually using this product
Yes.
now?
A lot of CAD-CAM, multimedia developers, and people doing desktop publishing, anything that's very mouse and keyboard intensive. Open, excuse me, slideshow, scratch it, slideshow, slideshow, excuse me, to point the microphone at me. This is a directional microphone picking up what I say. It filters out background noise and the like. The whole system is basically designed so that anyone can get up and running in about 5 to 10 minutes.
What's the point in having speech input on a presentation type program like Persuasion?
It certainly gives you a lot more flexibility. For example, if you're giving a board of directors meeting and you don't want to have to be right at your computer or right at the carousel and you want to control the pace of the program, you can simply have it keyed to advance only on certain words. And also, instead of going in a linear fashion, you can tell it to skip ahead or go back to certain areas in the presentation. For example, loading an ordinary Persuasion demo right here, start slideshow, which begins the whole application. And then once the application, or actually once the presentation begins, I can just have it keyed into certain keywords. For example, I'm going to go ahead and say advance. Advance, please. That little menu bar pops up to tell you that it knew the command that you were talking about. You can disable that.
Notice you're very polite to the machine.
Yes, user-friendly both ways. Also, if you want to jump around the presentation, go to slide, sales, so you can back up and move forward. However your presentation, however you need to be running a presentation.
Yeah, so again, you don't have to go linear, and you can just tell it go backwards to the slide I showed whatever
Exactly. If someone interrupts you and says, oh, wait a second, we didn't address those issues in the very beginning, it's very easy to say, oh, okay, I remember that we need to go back over the sales slide. You don't have to remember the number of the slide. You simply say, go to slide, sales.
Yeah. We've seen kind of CAD applications here and presentation applications, and Jan and I were talking at the very beginning about the future of speech as a serious mainstream input device. Do you see that happening, Patrick?
Absolutely. I mean, there are just so many advantages. There's intuitive advantages. When you think about someone who's sitting in front of a terminal and what they want to do is put a concentric circle of line width 0.4 on their screen, you can do it one of two ways. You can think it and then negotiate through a set of visual hierarchies, which is good. It's certainly a step above. Or you can simply say, concentric circle, 0.4 millimeters.
Just like you did.
Boom, it's up on the screen.
Yeah. All right, Patrick, Jack, thank you very much. That's our look at speech technology. Stay tuned now for this week's Computer News.
In the random access file this week, industry analysts are saying IBM will introduce a new 386SX laptop PC by late February. The new notebook-sized laptop is expected to include a 60-megabyte hard drive and weigh only 7.5 pounds. It will run at 20 megahertz and come standard with 2 megabytes of RAM. Analysts say it will be competitively priced at under $5,000. Borland International is releasing an upgraded version of the highly successful utility program Sidekick. This will be the first upgrade to Sidekick in over 2 years. The new version 2.0 of Sidekick includes an appointment planner, address book, notepad, and calculator. Taking a look at this week's top 10 software titles for the Macintosh, Mac Connection reports that Macintax is in the #1 spot, followed by Where in Time is Carmen Sandiego. In third place is After Dark, and SimEarth is fourth. And in fifth place is Disk Doubler. Rounding out the top 10 are Correct Grammar, Quicken for the Mac, Weltris, Adobe Type Manager, and SimCity. The Reuters Financial News Service reports that 1990 was a rough year for most computer manufacturers. Reuters says 10 of the world's biggest computer makers expect to report losses for the year. In the United States, mainframe and mini computer sales were flat, and the only bright spot in microcomputers was the growth in the laptop market. The demand for laptops increased by 65% over 1989. Time now for this week's software review. Here's Paul Schindler.
By now, most of you know that you don't have to have a dictionary around if you want to look up a word. But that still leaves you with deciding which online dictionary and thesaurus to buy. I suggest Language Master. Merriam-Webster, the dictionary makers, supplied 80,000 American English words in the dictionary and 40,000 words in the thesaurus, all in just under 2 megabytes of disk space. You can look up a definition. If you decide, upon seeing the definition, that it wasn't the word you wanted, you can then drop into the thesaurus. Once there, you can pick up one of the words and drop it in. If your word was plural, it inserts a plural replacement. It also uses proper verb tenses. The program works with virtually any word processor. Language Master is simple and straightforward, but it works awfully well. It's the best thesaurus for the Macintosh, period. The fact that it also includes a dictionary function is just gravy. Language Master is $100 from Franklin Electronic Publishers in Mount Holly, New Jersey. For the Computer Chronicles, I'm Paul Schindler.
Finally, a former English professor at the University of Chicago has developed a program to determine original authorship and to eliminate student plagiarism. Called the GLAT Plagiarism Screening Program, the software deletes every fifth word in a student paper. The student then fills in the missing words, and the program determines the probability of plagiarism according to how well the student can reproduce his or her own writing. The concept is based on research in cognitive psychology, which says that people remember their own writing style better than anybody else's. This may suggest an appropriate New Year's resolution. That's it for this week's Computer Chronicles. I'm Kate McGargy.
The Computer Chronicles is made possible in part by the Software Publishers Association, which reminds you it's a federal offense to copy software. The SBA provides information on how to stay software legal. Funding is also provided by PC Connection and Mac Connection, and by Byte Magazine and Bix. For a transcript of this week's Computer Chronicles, send $4 to PTV Publications, Post Office Box 701, Kent, Ohio 44240. Please indicate program date.